We're going to find out a little bit more about how Gabriela got her book going. So the first question that I'd like to ask you, Ms. Condrea, you know, you say that the book wrote itself. So what inspired you to write it, and what was the process of writing like for you?
Well, I like to write. My grandpa was a writer, so I don't know if that maybe kind of got in there somewhere. And I used to teach writing, so I would just write from time to time. But when I started dancing tango, I just had all these like aha moments when I felt like I understood something, and I just felt compelled to write it down. And I say the book wrote itself because I didn't sit down and say I'm going to write a book. I actually just wrote on all these little pieces of paper. I would literally write on whatever I could write on when I felt inspired to write. So.
And she still does.
And I still do. It comes and goes. But when the ideas come, I try to make space for them. Write them down.
So can you really understand things about human relationships through tango?
Well, I think that you can understand, you can get a good idea of how somebody interacts with you, and also what I noticed is I learned a lot about myself. I think the close proximity of the body is really just, it's like when we talk, sometimes we can get confused because there are so many different layers from when I have an idea or I have a feeling, and then I develop it as an idea in words, and then by the time I actually say it, then somebody hears it, then you know they interpret that. So by the time the idea gets to them, there are many places along the way for confusion. But in tango, I think that the more direct physical communication makes it easier to see some things that are probably true in my life as well, for me personally, but I maybe can't see them in the same way otherwise. So yes.
Okay, so what about the yellow hippopotamus? You said you're going to tell us about the yellow hippopotamus.
I was dancing with a friend one day, and he said, you know, sometimes when I dance with a woman, I really feel her presence. I feel like she's there. And other times I feel like she's not. And it got me thinking to the idea of a woman's presence, and just my own conflict with, you know, how I should be, what I should do, what I should say, how one should conduct themselves. I think there are many conflicting ideas about that. So it's no wonder that when you're trying to embrace with a man who you might not even know, in the middle of a room full of people, and hesitating to like be present, I think makes a lot of sense. So sometimes I still feel like a yellow hippopotamus, and other times I feel like a swan. But I think that even on those days when I feel like a yellow hippopotamus, and I feel like everybody sees me, and like all eyes on the yellow hippopotamus, I can try to make those things I'm self-conscious about, the things that make me feel insecure, I can try to use those qualities of myself, put them into my dance, and celebrate them rather than becoming tense about them. So even if I'm a yellow hippopotamus, I could still be sexy.
And who would want to dance with a yellow hippopotamus? Okay, so the last question that we have for Gabriela is, how did your approach to learning change as you studied tango, teaching styles?
The last time I was in Buenos Aires, I really changed my perspective to studying to learn, but also studying to teach, to be able to share the ideas that I was learning. So it just dawned on me one day, it wasn't convenient for me to go to class and show how much I know. I'm going to class because I want to learn. Whether or not I agree with what's being taught, but I need to have an open mind and humble myself enough to ask questions. It's not about showing that I know how to do what the teacher is teaching. It's about figuring out how they explain it, how they approach it, and then evaluating that afterwards. So it really changed my approach to learning in life.
Well, thank you, Gabriela, and let's give her a hand, and then we're going to open it up to your questions. Does anybody have a question for Gabriela?
What did you like most and least about Argentina?
Ooh, most and least about Argentina. There are so many things about Argentina that that can be seen in so many ways. Like the late nights dancing all night long sounds really good, and it is. Except for I lived this vampire lifestyle for a whole month, and I realized it was maybe not the healthiest thing. I was really tired. There's definitely something about the way people interact with one another that is fluid, and when somebody embraces you, you can tell if they're from Argentina. Does anybody want to go there now? But also, I think one of the biggest things one of the biggest lessons that I learned from living in Argentina was that you have to adapt, and you just, nothing really happens as planned, and people are really skilled at adapting. It's like, you know, the bus doesn't come, so you go to catch the subway. The subway's on strike, so you catch a cab, or you walk, or I don't know. People just make things happen. So that's something I really admire about the culture there.
Any other questions? Okay.
Would there be more peace in the world if people knew how to dance?
Well, I think if you hug somebody, world peace, I can't answer that question, but I do think that the more we interact with one another, the more empathy we gain for each other, and I think that kind of the pull, the divisiveness in our world, and the pull toward individuality. Individuality is important because it's important to take care of yourself, to be able to interact with other people. I think nobody should have to take care of somebody else just because they're not taking care of themselves. That being said, I think that we are much more similar than we are different, and when we interact with one another in a way that's so direct, like embracing somebody, it really helps us gain empathy. So, possibly.
Okay. Anybody else? Oh, loud. Speak up.
Okay, so tango being a sad dance. There's a famous Argentine tango dancer called Geraldine Rojas, and she's just beautiful dancer. You should look her up YouTube. But she said, I saw a short video, an interview with her, and she said, people say that tango is sad. But what I think, and I'm paraphrasing, is that tango is about expressing your emotions. So it can be poems sung as songs, and emotions expressed through movement. So emotions can be sad, and they can be happy, and everything in between. And so I think tango is definitely what you bring to it. And there have been times when I was happy and got to tango dance and realized that maybe I actually had some sadness in me, and that I maybe needed to deal with. And then there were times when I was really, really, really in a state of like melancholy, and tango was really therapeutic in that way, and I left feeling lighter, and like a load was lifted off me. So I don't think it's always sad.
Very well said, as usual. Oh, we have one more question in the back.
Is there tango going on in Seattle?
No, there's nothing. There is, thank you.
I
That's
know
a
it's
great
salsa,
question.
but I don't know.
That's a really good question, because actually I learned there was tango from an Australian lady in Buenos Aires. And I was like, how are you telling me about my city? I got to Buenos Aires, I discovered tango, and I said, well, this is something that intrigues me. But I thought, well, when I go home, what am I going to do? Oh no, there is tango in Seattle. So I was very surprised. But it is like one of those, I think Seattle has many circles, and so if you don't intersect with one of the circles, you wouldn't know. Like you have a nice art event once a month now, tango, by the way.
If you help me out with it.
And so, yes, there is tango in Seattle, and a great place to find information about tango is allseattletango.com. And if you want to come to my classes, there's information right here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. Anybody else?
¿Por qué te has interesado por tango Argentina si vienes de Moldavia?
O sea, ¿cómo llegué al tango desde
Sí, ¿por qué te has
Moldavia?
interesado? Sí. Puedes hablar en inglés.
Thank you. How did I get into tango in Argentina,
Yep.
Coming from Moldova? Does anybody know where Moldova is?
Eastern
Well,
Europe.
this is not me since we were what, like 10, 9. So that you know, you're cheating. Moldova is a small country between Romania and Ukraine, and it was part of the Soviet Union, and that's where I was born. And at 6 years of age, we immigrated to Seattle. So I grew up here in Seattle, and actually, I didn't even know anything about tango and had no interest in finding anything out about tango, because I thought tango was that like walk in a line and holding rolls in your teeth, and that's kind of sexy, but you know, it sounds painful. So I really wasn't very curious about tango. And actually, I thought, I went to Peru to volunteer, and then I made my way through Chile to Santiago and down to the south of Argentina. Thank goodness I saw other things before I got to Buenos Aires, because once I got to Buenos Aires, I met some people that said, you know, we're going to a tango class, why don't you come? I had no plans, so I went. But I actually thought, I was telling myself, I think I have an email I wrote to my aunt, I'll get to Buenos Aires and maybe learn some salsa or something. I had no idea. But when I met tango, it kind of felt nostalgic in a way. And I think many people experience that for whatever, from wherever they come, like whatever their experience is. I found something very nostalgic in tango.
So what do you mean by nostalgic? So what's in tango makes you nostalgic? What is it?
For me, yeah, something about the music, I think I heard somebody say music. Something about the music was like I had heard it somewhere, so that definitely was a part of it. But also, being an immigrant, I mean, I was a child when we immigrated, but I remember leaving, and I have images of Moldova, and I have a strong connection with the place, and I grew up here, so it's I'm very much disconnected from the culture, except for my family. So in some ways, I was kind of seeking roots, I think. So I think that might be part of why it just fit for me so well. There was something about that. And just a little history of tango, and I'm not a historian, but just a rough idea. A lot of immigrants came to Buenos Aires, and it seems like they might have also found identity and community and dance tango and other dances for that matter.
Okay. Anybody else? This is great. All right. Well, then let's just give a big hand to Gabriela Condrea.